mission is not to just fulfill or make one customer happy. Mission is to for the team to nurture and grow and be successful in their own path.
Welcome to the LabVIEW Experiment. I am your host, Sam Taggart from SAS Workshops. In my 15 years of working with and training developers, I've had the opportunity to conduct a lot of experiments. Over here, we believe in embracing failure as the essential learning experience that it is. And what better way to learn than from other people's mistakes? In this podcast, I talk to industry experts, colleagues, and friends about their failures and how they have turned them into future successes. I am here today with Ashish Uttarwar, and Ashish runs a company called Arav. Why don't you tell me a little bit about Arav and what you guys do?
So Arav, we are a LabVIEW house. We provide software engineering services to customers. Um, Primary focus of Arav is to provide like a process-driven software engineering services where a customer will come and they will basically be able to leverage our processes and good practices and get a finished product out of it. And LabVIEW has been a backbone of our company from day one, because that had been something as a primary platform. We always justified or always challenged, but able to justify why LabVIEW is the tool to go to because of the nature of our work is mostly engineering based. LabVIEW had been in our is as a backbone for our platform. Um, Eventually, we acquired some more knowledge about different tools as an add-on, like most commonly Python to start with. But after diving into some other platforms, we ended up coming back to LabVIEW, um, and getting mentoring from Sam, you, and those are kind of aspects which help us to focus on continuous improvement on our day-to-day practices. Sam has been patient enough to guide my team to feed them enough, although they are still trying to catch up on different technologies or styles of programming they learn. But so essentially, we focus on giving a holistic approach to the software engineering in LabVIEW and provide some services and solutions to machine builders or other companies who are using LabVIEW for their product development.
Now, just to clarify, you guys, more than just doing turnkey solutions, you guys actually work with engineers at the existing companies that are already doing LabVIEW a lot?
That's true. That's major part of it, and that's where basically it's more like an engaging, closed loop exchange of information or team, which we saw good success with. So our customers have existing LabVIEW teams, and who on a regular basis engage with our team. So we essentially work as an extension of our customers' team uh, to basically add as a and our primary focus is the team being in India. We provide like it becomes more like a 24/7 development, and that's where the process becomes primary plays a primary role to do some efficient handoff and then sharing the information between the teams. Yeah.
Yes, I think that's an important clarification. You are in California, but you also
I
have
am.
several developers in India.
Correct. Correct.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody else who does some Senthil, I believe. You know
Hmm.
Senthil. Yeah, he also
Yeah.
has some developers in India, and that was one of their selling points is that you can have this, the engineers in the U.S. work during the day, and then in the evening you do a handoff, and then the Indian engineers work all night, and
Mhm.
yeah.
Mhm. Correct. Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, so I would imagine that handoff is actually pretty important, and also making sure that everybody's kind of on the same page.
True. Yeah. That's where, I mean, same page, part of the, let's say, take an example of we are writing a LabVIEW driver for a robot. Robot is in California. A classic example is customer sends a user manual and the details. Hey, this is a robot user manual documentation. We want to create a driver for it. So team will go through the process, the document, come up with the requirements, share with the team in USA, So do that back and forth in terms of document or the Jira tickets to make sure the requirements are clear, have some more exchange of information. And then after that, it's a kind of a brief silence between them where our team is implementing all the code, which is more like a hardware abstraction, simulation, things like that in place. And at some point when kind of the structure is ready with some small unit test VIs, then we ask customer to test it out or we remote into the systems, test it out, uh, make sure we are understanding how the communications work. And then it's a more engagement is needed with the customer depending on how critical or how safe it is to use this hardware remotely. But yeah, I guess it has always been the communication has been the biggest I'll say obstacle or a core component in making this a success.
And what is the hardest part of the communication? Is it just the time difference?
Um, I'll say it's not too bad. The time difference is okay. I think asking right questions from both sides has been somewhere, I guess, I realized we have to have, because a lot of things are taken for assumptions, like how safe it is to run remotely. If you don't ask and just assume that, oh, it's a hardware, we should not touch it, then it becomes all big of a challenge in terms of how do we test it. Let's say a temperature controller, right? Uh, you can just run some query commands, but asking those right questions had been something. And the other big difference is the, I'll say, work culture, in the sense that plays a big role in terms of uh, difference in understanding because of the different working culture. That plays a big role. Timing is, yes, we accommodate. Sometimes customer stays in 9 p.m. call, or sometimes our India team members stay in 9 p.m. call in India. So those have not been a big of a challenge compared to this communication and business analysis.
Let's talk a little bit about how you came up with the name for your business. I think that's an interesting story.
It was easy. My son, his name is Arav, or it's called Arav, but we call it Arav here. He was 2 year old when I started this company in India. Um, it's funny. I was going to call it with my last name, the company name,
Mhm.
uh, and my wife was like, "That's so boring." It's like, then obvious choice was, Arav was like small, and I'm still trying to find I think it's an acronym for something, ARAV, for the company, but that's how the it started.
Uh, you said something in one of the things that you sent me about I don't micromanage, I mission manage. Do you want to talk about what that means to you?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, uh, I use this analogy of both Arrow, my son, and Arrow Systems. Growing side by side, and I'm learning from being a dad for my son that look from the broader perspective. Am I providing everything that he needs to nurture him very well, and use the same attitude of for the team. Am I having enough tools, enough mentoring, enough guidance to the team? That's what I mean by mission managing. Like, they should they have a target. Like, my son has a target in school, or in sports, some objectives to meet. And then we as parents just make sure we don't go there and teach them. We just make sure they are in the right company, getting the right coaching, facilitate what they need to be successful. And in the company, I have the similar ideology, like make sure I get Sam involved, make sure I get some interesting, exciting projects as a mission for them to work with. Make sure I give them tools like Jira or Bitbucket or a Discord channel. Get them aware of all those things, and not necessary that they will use all of them, but at least I provide. So that's when I say mission manage. Like, mission is not to just fulfill or make one customer happy. Mission is to for the team to nurture and grow, and be successful in their own path, because it's a team, so it's not one individual there. So mission is to make sure have the multifaceted um, inputs or nutritions, and then everyone will have their own way to pick it up, right? And make sure you have that and have the mission. Hey, this is the all the ingredients. This is what I want. What I want is customer happy. At the same time, you have to be successful for the customer to be successful. So use that analogy to make it, and don't go into detail of micro and managing.
Yeah, I find that really interesting. Yeah, thinking about raising kids, it is challenging. And I find that not only is my son growing, but I feel like I'm growing too in
Yeah,
some ways because I have to learn new ways of doing things and definitely test my patience sometimes and other
yeah.
skills that I didn't really know I needed. So,
And you will not be perfect, which is okay. you you will try your best, and eventually as a leader or a dad, you're trying to make sure your kids are more successful than you. That's your ambition. So same thing as a leader, want to make sure the team is more successful than me. An example is, I realized long time ago, like, okay, I did CLD very early in my career. In LabVIEW, and I was mindset was, I'll do CLA and be an architect. Like, I saw all these great people in my career path, and like, those are my role models. And it's after some time I realized, uh, I'm not as far on LabVIEW or technology as them, but I have my other strengths, which like more people and technology make them work together. So once I find that, I provide some guidance on team to basically do those certifications, like go to the CLA. They might fail, but have them have the backing about, them to try it out. But it's a journey.
yeah, it's interesting you say that because I do feel like there are multiple different skill sets that are needed. So,
Hmm.
I mean, running a business like, I mean, my business is actually very similar to yours. And there's
Hmm.
the technical skills of being able to do the thing, but then there's also, like you said, the interpersonal skills of being able to interact with the customers.
Hmm.
There's the business skills of trying to structure the deals in such a way that it makes sense for everybody involved.
Yeah.
And those are all different skill sets, and they're all valuable in their own way. And so, yeah, I think yeah, me being a single practitioner, I kind of have to do all of that myself. But I think in your case, like if you have other people who can do parts of that and you focus on the parts that you're better at, I think that's a great way to divide up resources.
Yeah, true. At one point we did uh, practice like a virtual CTO as a in the company. Instead of a CTO, we have a group of people. Some are good in LabVIEW, some are good in CI server, some might be good in Python, and I. So we had this exercise where we'll say, man, I'm not able to find a good technical owner in the company as a partner, but then why don't we just have a virtual CTO where we have these regular meetings as a CTO and put our minds together and see what we can achieve for future growth of the company. Uh, but yeah,
Yeah,
that was one of the things.
yeah. Well, that's something I've been thinking about a lot lately, and I've been having trouble selling it. But I do think there are certain companies where the person running it, kind of like you, they're more of a business person. They're more of the visionary person. They're good at making the deals, but then maybe they're not the most technically savvy, and
Yeah.
they could use some help running the team, particularly like if you have a team and there are a lot of junior people on the team. Yeah,
Hmm.
often they need a little direction. They need somebody to do a little bit of the architecture and maybe some of the
Of course.
project management side.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And that's where I keep saying that having you involved, at least not completely fills it because you are trying your best, but somebody as a CTO, a full-time CTO or a technical owner is very crucial for the business growth. I'm
Yeah,
more like a driver in the car, but we need somebody who will do the engine or the ECU kind of stuff.
yeah. Well, I mean, I applaud you for reaching out because I do think sometimes people think that they need to do it all themselves,
Yeah.
particularly people who are like like quote founders. I kind of hate that word because it's all like startup culture stuff. But if you run your own business, often, especially when you start, you end up doing everything yourself, and you kind of get it in your head that like you have to do everything yourself. And so realizing that you don't have to do everything yourself and asking for help in the areas you need is actually key. But I
Yeah.
mean that's like a big challenge, and I think most consultants can kind of identify with that. And like, you know, you see somebody struggling, like I can help them, but in order to help them, they kind of have to admit that they need help.
You need
And
help.
trying to
True.
get somebody to say I need help is actually really hard.
It's yeah, it takes a different shift of mindset. True, true, true.
Yeah.
On a funny note, the way I look at it is I'm more interested in automation, so and I'm kind of lazy, you know. I like to delegate jobs and have someone else do it for me. But there's a funny side, but yes, it takes a shift. That's what I said early on, like first I think 3, 4 years when I started Arav Systems in 2011. It took me time to realize because I had moments where I used to think, hey, during this whole day, I barely did any lab view. I was mostly with customers, invoicing, presentations, and not. So that was, I distinctly remember moments, end of the day, I was feeling frustrated. I did not do lab view, and that's not something I'm happy about. And it took me like 4 years to realize or start accepting that, wait a minute, that's what my role is, to make sure I have teams. So I want to make sure so that definitely was a moment when I realized my role more clearly and accepted it.
Yeah, well, I think part of that goes towards having a clear goal or vision, mission, however you want to put it, of what you're
True.
trying to achieve, and also thinking about how you can have the most impact.
Hmm.
And so to me, it's a combination of how can I have the most impact, but also like what do I enjoy doing too,
Yeah.
right? And so like
Correct.
I enjoy writing code, so even though maybe I could have a bigger impact doing other things, I still want to be able to write code. But it's kind of balancing all of those things, I think.
Yeah. True. True. True.
So I'm curious. Another option, if you have that hole, one option is to bring in somebody from the outside, but another option is to build people up. What have you done to try to fill the void from that end?
Well, that's the thing. I have been some key team members who had been demonstrating some abilities. Those are some things we have expressed interest, or I have expressed interest. Like, hey, you have this potential, but at the same time, you are not ready yet because then we are basically providing some more focused efforts to get them ready for the role by giving them opportunities to lead some project activities. Like, for example, one team member is very, very good with communication with the customers along with LabVIEW. So he becomes a point of contact for customers. He works with customers on priorities, timelines, and does the development work too. And the other team member is very much into active development. So we are providing them more as a team lead, mentoring internally, providing training to the team members, or doing the reviews for them, giving feedbacks, updating coding guidelines. So it's essentially setting up expectations or asking them essentially, like, hey, this is what I think you are good at. uh, and if they get on board, then sharing with the team, and so that everyone is aware, like aware of this exercise we are doing, um, and providing them enough tools by in terms of the role, like to role playing it instead of just delegating the role, allow them to exercise it, and giving them opportunities to represent the company as a technical owner or a project owner. So putting them in the shoes and letting them try it out. At the same time, be on the side available for them, so that they don't have any worry about being failed, because that's part of the journey. But yeah, making them equipped, setting expectations, um, and see how it goes. That's something exactly what we are doing right now.
Yeah, I think the asking part is key because sometimes, like I can see situations where like the boss might be like, "Hey, you're really good at this. Let me push you in this direction," and the person's like,
Yeah,
"Actually, even though I'm good at that, that's not what I want to do,"
yeah.
and that can
And
definitely cause some conflict.
I've been there, done that. So
Yeah, I think a lot of us have. Yeah, when I was at Westinghouse, my boss kept wanting me to move into management, and I was like, "No, why would I want to do that?" So yeah, definitely that is an issue.
true, true, true.
But also, I think you mentioned something earlier that I think is also worth going back to, and that is talking about raising kids and things. It's not doing too much for them. I think it's easy for
Yeah.
us to step in and do too much
Uh-huh.
and do the things as
Mm.
opposed to giving them the opportunity to learn.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I guess thanks for bringing it up, but um, I got to try that out with Arav Systems um, because of the my move from India to USA, uh, and I was worried how it will go. It was a mixed feeling when I make that move from India to USA. Yeah, but then within a year, I realized I should have done it earlier, even when I was in India, by because otherwise same time zone with them all the time. I was always, having my nose in all the projects or activities they are in. Although I was saying that I'm not micromanaging, but I was there. Um, all this I'm saying, hey, you take the decision, but being there, they're still kind of cautious about the decision being made while I'm there. So me, I was forced to move out of that India time zone to USA and I'll say I'm glad it worked out because the team really took ownership of things where otherwise I used to fill the roles. And that basically last 3.5 years, I could see how that have evolved the team culture or a personality without me, you know.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So I read this book recently called Lead Without Blame by Trisha Broderick, and it's
Huh.
really good. But it talks about power dynamics and stuff and how, like you were mentioning, you being the boss and you just simply being in the room, it affects the conversation and the tone,
True.
and like it affects people's willingness to throw out ideas and things like that.
Yeah.
And so actually it's probably interesting being separated from the team probably helps a lot with that because you're not there in the meetings and so you have to build up that trust.
Yeah, yeah, true. I was scared, honestly, of that move for the company. At the same time, it was good because we had a team meet before I moved out of India. During that meeting, I had shared my company vision and how that move is going to help in the long run because I'll be closer to the customer base and how that can help us. So that's kind of setting up that, and again, setting up that message on why this move and giving that background and without any specific allotment of roles and responsibilities but giving a bigger vision and let that digest in the team and see who naturally comes up with different roles they want to take in. I think that was one of the aspects which I luckily did. It's not like I had planned for it, but I wanted to meet everyone before I leave, and I ended up having a good couple of days uh, sessions with them before I take off.
Yeah, I really like that idea of letting the team kind of self-organize as opposed to coming in and being like, you're in charge of this, you're in charge of that. Like, just kind of being like, hey, here are the things that have to happen. Who wants to
Yeah,
be in charge of this? Who wants to be in charge of that? And just kind of
correct,
see what happens.
correct.
The other thing I've learned when it comes to delegating stuff, I do a lot of work with Taylor, and Taylor's awesome. But
Hmm.
like, you kind of have to like be okay with the 90% solution or something, right? When you delegate
Yeah,
somebody to something to somebody else, you have this idea in your head of what it should be,
yeah.
and they may get 90% of the way there or 95% of the way there, and you got to be okay with that. But
Yeah,
but the thing that you get when you're okay with that is occasionally they're at that 90-95% and like part of you cringes, you're like, oh, I could have done it a little bit better. But then the rest of the time they do like 110 or 120%.
exactly.
And it's
Correct.
better than what you thought. And you're like, oh man, I didn't really think of that.
Yeah,
Whereas if you had like come in and micromanage, you wouldn't get that extra couple percent
yeah.
over the
True.
top, which is
Yeah.
very interesting.
True, very true. I mean, that essentially is what I see. Set some expectations, which what you want, but then move out. And there is always a better way to do it. Even if you do it, I do it, somebody else will find a different way, which could be efficient. But yeah, letting it to the point because that last 10% might take 90% of the time. That is also a problem when you're trying to achieve a goal. Even 90% is not bad.
Yeah, that extra polishing can sometimes take a lot of effort.
Yeah.
I'm curious. So in the time that I've been working with you guys, there has been a little bit of turnover. What are your thoughts on that? And like, is it that's
Well,
just a natural part of the
I just, yeah,
game?
I mean,
Yeah.
I look at it the way I look at it is although we are using technology, I look at our RO systems as a people company. Uh, what makes me proud is um, uh, polishing the skills, and when they go out, they represent us,
Yeah.
right? And somebody looking at their profile or their working style, they're like, "Whoa, okay." They know what they are getting if there's somebody's coming out of our systems, and everybody's a stepping stone. So, but as long as they are, I'm making them uh, geared up for future success, which we have seen like a lot of turnaround in since 2011, lot of interesting relations, although they're like mixed bag of emotions, but we are all still in touch. I see them progress, and that keeps me motivated to keep trying all the time, essentially. That has been the key.
Yeah, some of my proudest moments were actually when I lived in Pittsburgh. I used to teach rock climbing, and I would teach people how to rock climb, and they would come in and they would know nothing, and
Mm-hmm.
then I'd teach them, and then like a few years later, they'd go climb something really crazy, and I'm like, oh wow, like and
True, true.
yeah, I mean, there's probably some ego there, but it's kind of cool to think that like I had some small part in that,
Yeah, exactly,
like
right?
I helped them.
That's
Yeah, yeah, it's like
that's right.
I'm living vicariously through them a little bit. So
Yeah, I mean, I take that as a compliment for my pat on my
yeah,
back.
yeah,
Because what I have seen is somebody gave me a break in my career at the beginning. you know by trusting what I can do. Some things worked, some things did not, but then because of those break in the or trigger in my career, and the contributions everyone has made has brought me here, that I'm able to sit with you and talk, right? Which is something keeps me motivated, like I want to be that for everyone who I can be a part of. And this process is because I'll say easiest part is learning LabVIEW and frameworks. Uh, it's I I'm not undermining the power of the frameworks, but what I'm saying is the hard part is being a good person, able to listen, listen to your sessions, listen to the customer, listen to the team members, communicate well, find a solution. If you see a problem, raise your hands, get it solved. Those are some things which make you a good or a bad engineer.
yeah. No, I mean, I think in my experience, all the stuff that I've done in LabVIEW, very rarely has the problem been a technical problem. Like sometimes there are real technical problems, like oh, we need to make
Of
this
course.
thing go super fast or whatever.
Yeah.
But a lot of it, even those things, come down to like people problem in getting the right people in the room and building the environment where people can contribute and
Mhm.
feel safe throwing out ideas and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you don't have that, you're never going to solve the technical problems.
Agreed.
So,
Yep.
but speaking of, paying it forward and all that, you've been doing a lot of public speaking lately. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. I mean, I realize I like to talk. Team always has a complaints that when I join and if I start talking, we have a practice like a daily morning 15-minute stand-up call in the team in India. And it's my 9 o'clock, 9 p.m. in California. So, once a while I join the call and they know that, okay, Ashish is here now. So it will not be a 15-minute call.
They just need to
But
start scheduling it later so it's like midnight and you're half asleep.
so they have a end of the day sync up call because they realize this that time is too early for me to join. But that's not yeah. But yeah, I realized people talk about success or bright side, shiny sides, which are good, but uh, I realized that people don't appreciate how hard it was to get to that brighter side, right? And a lot of struggle involved in the back end. Like if somebody's super successful, everybody kind of starts looking at it like from a point of view which is kind of mixed bag of jealousy, I guess. um, or somebody's there but you are not. But then I realized it's important to talk about the struggles, and easiest is for me to talk about mine because otherwise at least I have a validation of my struggles and then failures, which are essential part of where I am now. And I'm typically a person who enjoys the journey than the destination. So I see something struggling, I kind of it's frustrating, but that keeps me, although my wife will disagree that she hates this journey part because it kind of not everybody's cup of tea, right? To have challenges all the time. Uh, but that keeps me moving. I realized it's important to express that, um, share the stories. And that's when, I got the opportunity at GDOCon NA to talk about. I had done this kind of talks in the local colleges in India once a while because but I realized when I gave a talk about failures in a college, the professors or the teachers did not like that because they're like, wait, you are saying it's okay to fail? What kind of message you are giving to the students? So I realized that okay, it was the wrong audience then, you know. Maybe but I like to talk and I like this journey I have been part of, which are a lot of lessons learned and that are important lessons. I feel not everyone will relate to all of those situations, but many of them can relate to some of those situations. So the journey involved, I was in USA and then moved to India in 2011, then spent 10 years in India, started the company, then came back to USA 2021. So I have this experience working starting my career in the Bay Area, being part of the work culture here, moving to India. And so all this mixed bag of combination of skills make it a very, like there is always something from my story for anyone to pick up from, to learn like what not to do.
Yeah, I think that's kind of refreshing to me because especially when it comes to like entrepreneurship and running your own business, there's a lot of survivorship bias and there's a lot of like, people are like, oh, just do what I did and somehow it'll magically work. And nobody talks about the struggles and the hardship
Yeah,
and the,
true, true, true.
uh, I used to listen to this guy and I was like, yeah, I worked hard for 10 years to become an overnight success. Like you just see like suddenly somebody's successful. Like, oh yeah, that must be easy. And it's like, no, that actually took quite a
Mm.
while and there was a lot of
Correct,
effort involved
correct, correct, correct.
and letting people know, I think what they're getting into. When I talk to people who want to go start their own business, I always try. It's interesting talking to people who want to start their own business because I want to be encouraging and I want them to be successful, but I
Yeah,
also want them to go in with their eyes open and be like, yeah, this is hard. Like you should be
correct.
prepared.
Yeah,
And when you fail and get knocked down, you're gonna have to get back up and like just kind of expect that.
yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
that's why I guess I was approached by someone who runs a podcast for people moving back to India.
Oh.
And although title was not great because he put the title in the video saying why Ashish does not want to move back to India, which kind of totally misleading. But the I basically explained what were the challenges when I moved back to India and I came back to USA, and what are some differences, what should be people be ready for, because grass is always greener on the other side. Um, so being there, done that, there are a lot of experiences about the work culture. Client is in USA, team culture we are trying to build in India, which doesn't always fit equally for each other. What are things I learned? So those are all different spectrum of experience I had.
Well, it's interesting. You think about like moving back, but the problem I think people make with the whole moving back thing is they think they're going back to the same place they left. But it's
Yeah.
not the same place, right? Because you've been
Yes.
gone for a decade. Things have
Yeah.
changed.
Oh yeah. That's true. That's a big deal.
Because I think about that a lot because I used to live in Pittsburgh. I'm like, oh, I could go back to
Oh, I see.
Pittsburgh. But like all the things that I liked about Pittsburgh, a lot of the people, they're
No,
gone. And
no.
things have changed and the culture has changed there even over a
Correct, correct.
decade.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So not to say that like, don't ever go back or anything, but just like go into it knowing that like when you go back, it's not necessarily the same anymore.
Correct,
Time
correct.
marches on.
Yeah.
I'm actually curious. So since I've started working with your team, what changes have you seen? That's an interesting question.
Yeah. I see they are, at least what I see is they're eager to join the meetings that you have on a weekly basis. But I did ask the question last week about how I'll say it's difficult to quantify the impact you are making to the team because, it's more about having that attitude that, hey, learning is an ongoing process, which is something which I see as a big gain from this whole active weekly sessions you have with the team. That way, they always have something to think about what am I learning from this. Uh, Otherwise, there is a if and this is helping me to have some organized thought for them, where they have some like a playground backlog tasks that they can just come back. They have a weekly, they call it charcha. Charcha in Hindi means discussion on every Friday or every other Friday. They have this open forum internal team discussions where they bring up different topics they learn from you. And I guess the next step we are trying to do is how do we internalize some of the learnings from your sessions in our active development, which will then, and it's a slow process because there is so much feeding going on, which they are trying to organize and see what to pick. But big takeaways from this is we have started this kind of software engineering discussions with our customer too, and customer is liking it because oh yeah, you joined one of them, right?
Yeah, no, we have one tonight actually.
Oh,
So
you
yeah,
okay,
I'm
yeah.
looking forward to it. It's gonna be interesting.
Yeah, so those are some, I'll say, great because now we are leveraging or getting into a different level of relation with the customer. Instead of just understanding the requirement, solving the problem, and shipping it out, we are helping customer to improve their, it's a more deeper engagement, I'll say, instead of just the requirement gathering and providing the solution.
Yeah, it's more value add for the customer.
Exactly, yeah. So I guess
Yeah.
those are bigger takeaways from how our relation has been impacting the team.
Yeah, well, that just tells me I've got to figure out better ways to quantify that. But I will say this, though. Sometimes people bring in an outside consultant or somebody, or they take a class and they think that it's going to be this like big bang change. And it very rarely is that big bang change. I've found it's more about building good habits. And then
Yes,
over time, those habits accumulate and they
correct,
start to build on each other. And eventually, it's like compound interest. But
correct,
also,
exactly.
it's like when you're on the curve, you don't notice the incremental change. You have to like look over a longer period of time. So if you look back, like what were we doing last year versus this year, you'll
Mhm,
notice a change.
mhm.
If you're like, oh, well, this week we did X number of tickets, and the next week, well, we did X or X plus one, and it's some tiny percent. You're like, yeah, I don't really notice a change. But you
Yeah.
look back like months later, and you're like, oh, yeah, this is much better.
Yeah, it's more like your kind of role makes a is a cultural change in the organization, which takes time to internalize. So that's where I guess you're right. Like how to quantify now with these new roles I have in the team. I'm going to ask these kind of questions to see how we can get to some numbers or how to quantify some
Yeah.
actual examples.
Well, at one point, I think it was Shiva said something to me like, "Oh yeah, it's like you're trying to change the way I'm thinking," and I was like, "Yes, exactly." I was like, "That is the goal."
That is
I was like,
good.
"That means it's working."
Exactly. Correct.
So,
You have to do it without them knowing it because otherwise it just goes away.
but yeah,
Yeah.
I have noticed though the questions that they ask though in the
Hmm.
meetings are they're much more advanced. So
Okay.
before it was like, "Oh, how do I do this? How do I do that?" And now they're coming to me and they're like, "Well, I'm looking at these two options and here's what I'm thinking." And they walk me through
Uh-huh.
the thought process. And I can see the wheels turning, and it's good to watch that.
Nice. Yeah.
And
I
usually they already know the right answer. They just want me to like confirm it, which is
yeah.
good. Yeah,
Correct. Exactly. Validation. Yeah. True.
yeah,
That's good actually.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. No, those are some things. So now not having a CTO, I'm still able to say we are okay because having you have that mentoring and kind of helping me build that CTO type of roles, although not ready yet, but that mindset is important. That CTO is a role because then the people follow the leader. But then
yeah,
if you have that mindset in the team, I think we can do without a CTO.
yeah. I think you just need somebody to kind of set the tone. I think and
Exactly.
get people
Correct.
thinking along the right lines and asking the right questions and
Correct.
focused on the right things. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
cool, great. All right. Well, it's been great talking to you, Ashish, and it's been
Nice.
great working with you too. So
Oh yeah, thank
yeah.
you very much for this opportunity.
All right. Thank you. That's it for today's episode of the LabVIEW Experiment. Thanks for listening. If you have any comments or questions, head over to thelabuexperiment.com and drop me a note. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at the LV Experiment.